So the next dominant player of this generation is Rafael Nadal. And Rafael Nadal has 19 Grand Slams. And I think everyone would agree that he is the best clay court player ever in the history of tennis. And there's really, I guess if you were going to try to say that there was another player that was almost in Nadal's category, you'd have to say Borg. Because Borg retired at such an early age, I just don't think you can compare Borg to Nadal. Nadal has 12 Grand Slams at the French, and he clearly has been the most dominant player on clay during the period that he's played. And, Nadal's game is a very different game from Federer's, right? So Nadal is clearly a baseliner. He's not only a baseliner, he's someone who wants to control the court with his forehand. He's going to run around his backhand every time he can. And so he's going to play a very sort of one-dimensional baseline type of play, right? And that is he's going to play behind the baseline. He's going to not sit in the middle of the court like some players would, like a Djokovic. He's going to cheat, right, to his backhand side, right, because he wants to run around as many shots that are hit to his backhand and hit them with his forehand as possible. He hits with more topspin than any other player, and he is physically, I think you would have to say that he is probably if you were going to select one player as the sort of tennis player with the most physicality, that would have to be Nadal, right? He hits every ball so hard. He wants to hit every shot as a forehand, right? Which means he has to run around the court a lot more than his opponent does, because he's going to, every time you hit the ball to his backhand side, he's going to try to run around it and hit a forehand. And he does that better than any other player. And that particular skill set is so perfectly suited for clay court tennis, right? One where you play a little bit behind the baseline, right? More than you would in a hard court or a grass court. And where you're cheating, right? You're not playing right in the center of the court. You're actually sliding over a little bit to your backhand side, right? Because you want to hit as many forehands as possible. And another big part of his game is that he returns way behind the baseline, right? So that's not something you're going to see Federer do. But he has the skill set that allows him to do that, right? So he has big strokes, and in order to create all that top spin, right, he's got to take the ball low, and he's got to bring the racket all the way up over his head, and you're always going to see this finish of his above his head. But in order to have that kind of swing style, which is a very long stroke, you need time. And he buys that time by playing, way behind the baseline. I think we've all seen times when it looked like Nadal was returning basically from the fence, right? That he backs up all the way to the point where he's basically arm's distance to the end of the court. And he has the speed that allows him, once he hits that big return, to then come right up and get as close to the baseline as he can. So not only does he have this tremendous strength where he's hitting every ball with tremendous topspin and pace, he also has the fitness and the stamina that allows him to play these 5-set matches and just wear his opponent down, right? So even if you get a set off Nadal in the early sets, right, early part of the match, most players are just not going to be able, to win a 4th set or a 5th set against Nadal. They just aren't as fit as he is. They aren't as strong as he is. They just don't have the physicality that he has. Now, let's talk a little bit about the mental part of the game, right? Because Nadal also, he's a little bit more demonstrative than Federer, but he's always focused and he's always positive, right? You rarely ever see Nadal get down. So he brings this tremendous mental focus that allows him to play each point as hard as he can, right? And to never have these sort of mental lapses that you see so many of the players have. So not only does he have this style that is perfectly suited for clay court tennis, he also has a mental attitude that goes perfectly along with it, right? And then, he also is extremely fit. And let's be honest, have you ever seen Nadal overweight? Have you ever seen him out of shape? He clearly loves tennis. He trains harder probably than any other player. You've heard, some of his coaches, Uncle Tony and other players, Carlos Moya, say that if anything, he's the kind of player that you have to kick off the practice court, right? That, he's the guy that you have to say, okay, you put in your 3 hours for today, that's enough, save some for the match. And of course, that tremendous work ethic and that tremendous practice ethic has paid off and made him, the player that he is. And, Nadal is also extremely well loved. And this is something that I didn't mention about Federer. But I want to say both about Federer and Nadal. They have both been amazing role models and representatives for men's tennis. You couldn't ask for more, right? Someone who clearly loves the game, someone who plays as hard as they can, someone who competes so well, but nice guys, humble guys, right? Let's be honest, men's tennis is so lucky to have two champions like this, right? Because they're the perfect role models and representatives for the sport.